I command you to heal yourself.
What's up? I'm David Ben, your host. This is the Mustache Room. I'm holding Brussel. This is Brussel. You've heard all about him. He's still here, still kicking, hasn't had any eating mishaps. Thanks so much for being with us on today's episode. I had a vasectomy. I tell you all about it. The Soul Quest, the Church of Mother Earth, has closed for some unfortunate reasons. It's going to be the 55th anniversary of Doc Ellis's No LSD baseball extravaganza. We talk about the distinction between magic and science, the Diamond Shroomz recall of last year that had some ripple effects through the industry. We talk about kratom. We discuss alkaloids, what they are, the different types, how companies are trying to remove the trippy piece of psychedelics, trip-free psychedelics, and so much more. Thanks so much for being here. Parent company, Mustash Brands, MUSTASH. Check them out online. Check us out online as well, The Mustache Room. Seahorse Academy is a new project. Look for it. I am officially 1 week removed from being vasectomized. I'm not sure that that's a word, but yeah, had my vasectomy. We decided no more kids. One is good. I'm getting a little bit older. So is my wife. And so we had a decision. Let's go ahead and pull the plug on this thing. And I decided I'll get the tubes severed, cauterized. I'll go into the procedure in a second, but I don't want Jill to have to but to have to use any birth control. So, I don't want to mess with her body if I don't have to. And this is a way easier, more permanent change. So here I am, vasectomized. Basically, the vasectomy process, if you are not familiar, is they go in, they don't put you under any general anesthesia or anything. Go through the ball sack and they snip a couple of tubes. I'm pulling up the diagram here now so I can speak to it. But essentially, there are the vas deferens tubes, and they carry the sperm to the opening. they get the sperm out. They are the vehicle for the sperm, and so they go in, they sever the two pieces of the vas deferens, or sever it and create two different pieces, and then they cauterize those tubes. And so I'm awake during the whole process. The doctor's talking to me. She had 3 kids. Her name, Dr. Casanova. Fantastic name, fantastic job. Effective. My balls are swollen and sore, but they are healing. So at this point, I feel like I'm on the road to recovery, and it was a successful process. Nonetheless, I smelled the cauterization. I had never heard the word cauterize outside of like medical trauma shows or being lost in the wilderness and having to deal with a wound. But I smelled the cauterizing. The process is done, and we are hopefully going to be kid-free. This is a pretty permanent, probably the most effective form of birth control there is. So here I stand, the vasectomized. You hopefully won't hear any more about it ever again. I can't do jujitsu for a little bit, so about 10 to 14 days away. Hopefully I don't lose everything I learned over those 2 weeks, but got to do it for the good of the family. I want to get to something that's a little sad. I know I've been a big proponent of ayahuasca journeys at the Soul Quest Church of Mother Earth based out of Orlando, Florida. As of last year, they closed. So I'm not sure if I had talked about some of the legalities or some of the legal trouble that they were having, but they had a guy die at one of their. So I initially went in February of 2018. That was my first ayahuasca journey. Amazing. And this person went in, I think, April of 2018, around Easter time. And so it wasn't that long after my successful experience that this person went. And let me pull up the article here. A great publication for psychedelic news, anything in the way of organic stuff, pharmaceutical, legislation, just perspective, doubleblindmagazine.com, doubleblindmag.com. They had a really good article announcing the closure of the church. The owner of the church, the founder, is named Chris Young. I thought he was a great guy. Some of the things in the article painted a different picture, but he healed a lot of people, over 30,000 people over the 10 plus years that they were around. But this 22-year-old that went to, it was a three ceremony weekend, an ayahuasca weekend. He went to one of their retreats and he died after an episode with Combo. And I spoke about Combo in one of the previous episodes. It sucks. It's not a fun process at all. And I'm not sure that I really had a lot of sustained healing out of it. It's hard to throw the combo medicine in the mix with ayahuasca and the other things, hape and all the other things that you ingest and consume during that weekend. But I did the combo because I wanted familiarity with the process and I wanted to be able to speak to it. And it requires 6 to 8 quarts of water in about 15 minutes and or consuming that much water to prepare for the purge associated with combo. And this guy died from a condition called hyponatremia, which is an excess of body water. So he was prone to seizures and had some historical medical issues that I guess in 2018, when they were maybe not as graduated in their vetting process at the church, maybe they didn't uncover or take seriously enough. But nonetheless, they waited over 3 hours before they called an ambulance. So I mean, it's great. They had have a lot of really passionate, skilled people on staff, medical professionals, but I guess maybe they were a little bit too confident. Nonetheless, the ambulance was called. The man later died, and that really took its toll in the church. So they had a long legal battle. I was actually talking to Chris Young when I went last year, and he told me that some of this stuff was pending, but they had an annual income of about $2.5 million. They serviced a ton of people, like I said, over time, about 30,000 global. And they were, let's see, they were found guilty and they had to pay $15 million in damages. Yeah, where is that? Do, do, do. Yeah, about $15 million in damages. And it's basically just brought the church to its knees. So I know that they were looking for another location or other locations to maybe do this if this came to fruition. So as of last year, I think it was June or August, third, fourth quarter, they're closed. And if you remember me speaking about it, the church was on a big plot of land that was completely surrounded by housing establishments. So you could tell the city probably didn't want to have all this developed land, all these housing establishments, and then in the middle of it, a church of maybe questionable behavior. I mean, this stuff isn't mainstream medicine; it's more Eastern stuff. So they probably didn't fit in with the surroundings. And so when they had an opportunity to get them out of there, via this judgment and this wrongful death suit, they definitely took advantage of it. So I need a new place to do my ayahuasca. I might have to go abroad next time, but the Soul Quest Church of Mother Earth in Orlando, Florida, RIP. Chris, I hope you get back on your feet, man, and I hope this is a setback, but you've really done a lot of great things for a lot of people, and I hope that continues. So sad day. Don't know what else to say about that. I am wearing a Doc Ellis shirt today. First of all, Cavs, they're 50-10 at the moment, which is amazing. And hopefully they win the championship, Cleveland Cavaliers. But I'm wearing my Doc Ellis. You can't really see, but my Doc Ellis t-shirt because in June of this year, it'll be the 55th anniversary of his no-no on acid, which I know that's very slang and high level, but if you're a baseball fan, the no-hitter has always historically been, pretty important thing. It's a very individual accomplishment for whatever pitcher throws the no-hitter. If you're a true baseball fan, you do not accept the combined no-hitter, which is a bunch of pitchers getting together and all together not allowing a hit. But by one single individual, 9 innings, however many pitches that is, to not give up a single hit is pretty awesome. So in 1970, this guy, Doc Ellis, who was already a really controversial figure, somebody that was very outspoken, that was kind of at the era where Black Panthers, little bit, but a lot of racial tension. And so this guy was very unapologetic about his behavior and anybody that may, take notice in a negative sense. But Doc Ellis, who pitched for the Pittsburgh Pirates, which I'm a Cleveland sports fan, but the only team that I dislike out of Pittsburgh is the Steelers, and that's purely because of the Browns Steelers history. I do not dislike the Pirates or the Penguins or whoever else is from that area. My big thing is against the Steelers. So this is with the Pirates, and this guy Doc Ellis, basically he decided he had a day off for pitching. And pitchers back then they probably went more often, but now they go about every 5 days during the baseball season. But this guy decided, hey, it's my day off. I'm going to drop some acid and I'm going to take some LSD, which, if you're not familiar with LSD, go familiarize yourself. I don't have time to go into it. But it's a hallucinogen, a psychedelic, synthetic, comes from the ergot plant. And he decided to take some LSD. And 2 hours later, he realized that he had to pitch that day. So he dropped LSD at about noon. And then at 2 p.m., his girlfriend's like, hey, what are you doing? You have to work tonight. You have to pitch. And he's like, no way. I thought it was my day off. And so if you've ever if you've ever had an edible consumed by mistake, ate the wrong brownie, did anything like that where, oops, I have something important, something relevant to do, and now I'm up shit's creek because I'm under the influence for God knows how long, that's not a good feeling. That's a lose your kid in the supermarket, oh shit kind of feeling. But he did. He took the acid, and acid has a lifespan of anywhere from like 6 to 24 hours, depending on how long, how much you consume, the concentration, the dosage, blah blah blah. 6 hours is like a minimum. So if he dropped it at noon and he had to pitch at 6, the best case scenario is he would be coming off of his trip. But according to him, he was full go mid trip and he had to go pitch. And this guy went out there. He said he was diving for balls that weren't anywhere near him and doing some other things pretty flamboyantly. There's not a lot of video to support that, but he actually threw a no-hitter under the influence of LSD, supposedly. And he walked 8 guys. He had a hit batsman. You know, it wasn't flawless. It wasn't a perfect game where nothing goes wrong. But to be able to go out there and A, concentrate, B, be successful, and C, not lose your shit, that's pretty impressive. I have never had that sort of scenario. I'm pretty careful about when I do my psychedelics and make sure it doesn't infringe on any parental or professional responsibilities. That's a big, yeah, that's a crap your pants moment. So for him to just see it through, and he said he took LSD in the first place just because he's so afraid of getting out there on the main stage and pitching, which I can only imagine. So LSD was kind of a part of his, just social uh spectrum, I guess, of things to do. But good for him for making it happen and not flipping out. And I think he waited like 14 years before he disclosed that that happened because you don't want to admit to your boss that you were high while you were doing something really important. And starting pitching is really important. So good for him for being honest with it. Good for him for being successful with it. And a lot of people don't know that story. Robin Williams did a bit about it in one of his comedy specials. They actually have a video, not a video, but a cartoon, which I suggest you check out. It's called Doc Ellis and the LSD No-No. Um, it's a video that takes a comedic representation of him talking about the event and kind of makes it fun. So it's only like 5 minutes long, but if you want to see it, hear it from his mouth, what happened, dig into it a little bit more. It's a really crazy story. Back in the day, he also talks about them taking uppers, greenies, and other things. So I'm a baseball fan, and I don't want to get into it too much, but there were definitely eras of quote unquote quote drugs that influence players' output, their performance. And so the guys that are being vilified for all this stuff during the quote unquote steroid era, the McGuires, the Sosas, the Bonds, Clemens, Palmeiros of the world, those guys, they were just part of another more prolific steroid era, drug era, I should say. But yeah, greenies and all these other cocaine back in the day. I mean, there were all kinds of other things that people were ingesting to increase their performance. It just so happens that the steroid era really was insane backlash and sustained backlash. I mean, those guys are probably never getting into the Hall of Fame. All right. So if you want to learn more about what he did on that day in June, 1970. Go check out the no on LSD. I want to talk about magic. A lot of people will say, "Hey, I'm taking some magic mushrooms," or "I had a magical experience," or the things that psychedelics induce, they're magical. And that's fine for people to say that, but I want to make the distinction between science and magic. Science is based on facts. Science doesn't rely on the unknown, maybe in hypotheses, but the magic is a lot of unknown, a lot of misdirection, a lot of trickery. And as Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty put it best, I don't do magic, I do science. One takes brains, the other takes dark eyeliner. Couldn't have said it better myself. I try not to associate myself with magic. If you want to do magic, be a magician. It's cool. It's fun to fool people and misdirect, but that has no place in the psychedelic, the entheogen world, plant-based fungal medicine. That's where I like to stay. So facts, science, magic is fun and great, but has no place in the scientific world. So if you speak to magic mushrooms, I won't scrutinize you. I won't smack your hand, but just know we like to stay away from that word. Somebody that tried to get all crazy magic, and this happened in June of 2024, so I'm a little bit late to the game in disclosing this news and breaking the news. But there was a company called Diamond Shrooms, and they're based out of California, and they were making these what they called Shroomz bars. I mean, they were making it really ambiguous, I think, for a reason. But I guess they were advertising them as supposedly a mushroom containing bar or candy or variation thereof. And they're being sold all over the place. So head shops, bodegas, other places that would normally sell like ephedra products or, things that are kind of questionable plant-based substances, they sold these diamond shrooms. So I looked up the magazine. And again, Double Blind was the one that I read the most on this article. If you look at the number of products that they sold, it was insane. Every single flavor of every ice cream that you've ever had a flavor of diamond shrooms, and that's spelled Shruumz, which raises a lot of red flags in itself. But this product sold all over the place was just making people ill. And I guess people assumed, hey, maybe this has psilocybin, maybe this has some other nootropics, some other medicinal mushrooms, but there wasn't really anything on the label to tell you exactly what you were ingesting. So, unlike a traditional pharmacy, you don't have that breakdown of exactly what's in there, what each dose equates to, normal instructions, blah, blah, blah. It's more of like, enjoy this fun treat and hope you don't die. Woo! Um, but people got sick. And I think they got sick because they probably just took too much or just weren't anticipating the experience because they didn't know what they were getting into. But the FDA and CDC, they responded to 23 people going to the hospital, 39 others getting sick. And that's not a lot, in the US, a lot of states, a lot of people, a lot of places selling this stuff. But when you don't really have facts to back up your testing, laboratorial results, FDA approval, any of that stuff, it's kind of hard to refute these claims of people using your product the right way and getting sick. So they did a deep dive into this, and essentially, the company Profit Premium Blends of Santa Ana, California, they were the parent company of Diamond Shrooms. And if you look for any website for Diamond Shrooms or Profit Premium Blends, they're all gone. So they've wiped themselves off the face of the internet. And rightfully so, because everybody was out to get them. Hey, you advertise a mystery thing and it makes people sick. That's what happens. That's why drug dealers do it behind an alley instead of out in the middle of a coffee shop, because there are some penalties for this stuff, some backlash. But they recalled all these products, all the gummies, all the chocolate bars, all the cones, everything, and they did some analysis to see what was in these mushroom bars. And initially, they thought it was mucimol, which comes from the Amanita muscaria, the most popular mushroom for film and graphics, the red one with the white dots all over it, the Mario mushroom, if you will. That contains mucimol. So Amanita muscaria, there are a lot of products out there that will use that as I guess it's a psychedelic. I don't know. It's kind of like a gray area, but it's made people's stomachs uneasy in the past, and just not at the level that we like to work with psilocybin. But it contains mucimol, and they initially thought that that was the reason people were getting sick. But the additional reviews or the additional analysis showed more than just Amanita muscaria. They also found psilocybin, which not legal to sell, and this thing called 4-ACO DMT, which is synthetic. So, not necessarily something that I like to use on a day-to-day therapeutic basis. It's synthetic and it is a variation of DMT, and it's something that doesn't grow directly out of the ground. So immediately I'm skeptical. But if they're putting this 4-ACO DMT inside of their mushroom bars, and again, they found mucimol, this, I mean, God only knows what they put in there, just undisclosed. But this 4-ACO DMT, the doses are really important. And with all plant-based medicine or fungal medicine, the dosing is super important. That's why these labels should be very meticulous and accurate. But they found this 4-ACO DMT, they found mucimol, and I looked into 4-ACO DMT just in case you're curious about what that is. It's they call it synthetic shrooms. It is 4-acetoxy DMT, also known as 4-ACO, also known as psilocybin, also known as acetylpsilocin or synthetic shrooms. So a lot of different words for the same thing, but it is a, a variation of DMT, and it provides a lot of great effects according to a lot of people, but the dosing is super important. So I honestly am not going to like try to find this and tell you what it feels like because again, synthetic, I'd much rather grow my own and do it that way. But it's gaining some popularity in the psychedelic world. And, if you want to check out new stuff, go for it. The dosing, they say like a micro dose is 2.5 to 5 milligrams. High dose is 20 to 40 milligrams. So, I mean, there's a big spectrum there. Heroic dose 40 plus milligrams. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of what they're saying based on oral ingestion and what people have provided feedback for. But if you're going to do it, I would definitely ramp up just like any other fungal or plant-based medicine very slowly. So if a microdose is 2.55 milligrams, a low dose is 5 to 10, don't go any more than 10 milligrams on your first dose. You need to know the landscape. You need to know how it feels so you can take it to the next level and leverage it properly. Enjoy yourself. So 4-ACO DMT, again, DMT synthetic for the most part, 4-ACO DMT synthetic mushrooms that we talk about on this podcast, very organic. I can see it through from inception to consumption. So I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if anybody went to jail, but like I said, the FDA, the CDC, they are all over it. So as of right now, you better not find these diamond shrooms anywhere. If you do, you might get that place in trouble if you want to be a whistleblower. I don't like to be a whistleblower, but some people do. There's actually a law firm that is dedicated themselves to this recall. It's MCT Law. I found them online, and they went into a lot of detail as to what you might find. They said that the products could contain the 4-ACO DMT, psilocin, which is psilocybin reduced, extracted, reduced down to psilocin, pregabalin, which is a prescription anticonvulsant. I don't know how to pronounce those, but kava plant compounds, and mucimol from Amanita muscaria. So all those things were found according to this MCT law in those diamond shrooms packages. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of wide spectrum of things, some of which are not allowed to be any products. So they really did not do their homework. I think somebody just gave it a whirl, and now they might be in jail and most likely bankrupt. So MCT law. One of the other things that MCT law has latched onto, not just the synthetic shrooms or the diamond shroom stuff, but they have latched on to kratom. And I don't know if anybody listening is familiar with kratom, but kratom is completely natural. It's a plant that is based out of I'll tell you right now, South Africa, I believe. Kratom. Let's figure out where the kratom came from. But yeah, there's a leaf, and the leaf is consumed to create kind of like an opioid type effect, a stimulant effect. And so it can be habit forming, but a lot of people have used it to try to wean off of stronger opioids. It's a tree native to Southeast Asia called the Mitragina speciosa. And the alkaloids that it uses are bioactive alkaloids. And so it touches on some of the receptors in the brain, the same ones that the 5-H2A receptors that are touched by psilocybin, MDMA, all those other entheogens. So it does, tinker with your brain a little bit. And if it's akin to opioids, it works in that capacity, definitely could be habit forming. But kratom is served at a lot of kava bars. They'll serve kava and kratom. I don't know why those two are so closely grouped together. Kava is like a coffee with a kick kind of thing. Kratom seems to be way more not dangerous, but satisfying. I haven't done kratom. Again, I'm not looking for opioids. That to me is not going to provide any therapy except for pain relief. And so I'm not really into it, but it seems to be completely natural, seems to be a way to provide yourself a little bit of solace. And hey, if you need a break and you're looking for a way to provide yourself a break, give it a shot. I don't think you can grow it very easily, so you probably have to buy it online. But even though the FDA doesn't approve or really speak to kratom, you will find people online that are just selling it in various forms. So there's powdered forms and teas and all that stuff. Yeah. In the opioid spectrum, not interested, but technically as a plant-based medicine drug, gray area there. Alkaloids. We spoke about alkaloids. Not everybody really understands what an alkaloid is. So let me fill you in. Alkaloids are essentially things that are organic compounds, come from plants, fungus, natural things that will trigger the receptors in your brain. Um, all the different entheogens, psychedelics that we talk about, nicotine, morphine, anything that can provide some sort of stimulus that can make you feel a certain way that's organic, it probably has an alkaloid associated with it. So when you hear, this has these alkaloids, these has bioactive alkaloids, those are the things that are going to be touching those receptors in your brain and providing the desired effects. So the alkaloids, excuse me, the names of the alkaloids, not important. You're not going to remember those. These are bioactive alkaloids. The kratom has its very specific alkaloids. And I mean, I can tell you what those are, but I won't be able to pronounce them. Let's see here. Alkaloids. Mitragenine and hydroxymitragenine. Those are the compounds. The tryptamine family is the one that you'll find with psilocybin. And so that's the one that I most commonly will indirectly reference on this podcast. Let's pull it up here. The tryptamine alkaloids are found in plants, fungi, animals that contain tryptamine, psilocybin, DMT, sumatriptan are examples. These are the ones that are going to touch those 5-H2A receptors, the ones that can create, the hallucinations, um, the onergenic sort of effects that you're looking for. And so tryptamine alkaloids are the ones that we'll be indirectly referencing on this podcast. But if you're really interesting, even things like yohimbine, ephedra, ibogaine, uh, serotonin, these are all different tryptamine related compounds, all in the same sort of category. Another article that caught my eyes and my mind as I was looking, was talking about these new companies that are coming in and they're trying to make quote unquote trip free or psychedelics without the learning experience, as I like to put it. The There are a bunch of companies that are like, okay, well, people like the after effects of psilocybin or ayahuasca or DMT in a short form. So let's just get them those after effects. Let's not have them go through any sort of introspective experience. Let's not have them do any heavy lifting. Let's just give them the cake without having to run off the calories afterwards or really earn it. I guess that maybe is a mean way to put it, but it's the Ozempic way, right? It's oh, I don't want to have to work too hard. I still want to lose some weight. Can you give me a pill? That's what this is leaning towards. But if you know anything about psychedelics, if you know anything about entheogens, if you know anything about being reborn or the mystical experiences associated with these plant and fungal medicines, the work is part of the process. The work is going to give you a better outcome because you appreciate the outcome. If somebody gives you $1 million, yeah, you'll go spend it and have fun. But if you earn the $1 million and you saw it from $1 all the way up through 1 million, you're going to treat that with a lot more respect and you're going to appreciate it a lot more. Okay. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. So if you make a trip free psilocybin or DMT or whatever it is, you're basically saying, here's all the healing without any wound or without any stitches on your wound, just a magic wand being waved and healing you. And it's akin to, when you watch It's a Wonderful Life, if you're not old enough to remember It's a Wonderful Life, I apologize. I'm getting up there and I forget about those dated references. But it's a classic. It's a black and white movie. And the guy realizes at the end that he really needs to appreciate life. I mean, you have to, things that he had taken for granted, people that he just, didn't spend time with or didn't appreciate that he should have, or that really meant things to him for whatever reason. He learned at the end of the movie that you need to appreciate the things in life. You need to really, try to live with vigor and take every moment. Don't take anything for granted. I don't think if he would have gone through the pitfalls of the movie and had looked himself in the eye objectively, went through those introspective phases, I don't think he would have come to the same conclusion with the same level of enthusiasm. I don't think it's possible. But I mean, if you want to try to cliff notes, It's a Wonderful Life, by all means. And I think what they're getting at is, yes, it may paint the psychedelic experience a little differently, maybe not as true to form that some of us psychonauts would like to see it. But if somebody is struggling with PTSD, they're struggling with depression, a veteran, somebody that really needs it, that is maybe too scared of that trip or too scared of those dark moments, that can still get healing, then I'm okay with that. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I want people to be healthy. If Ozempic gets them healthy and it's sustained, great. I may encourage you to find other paths, but the net outcome to me is really important. So whatever heals you, as long as it doesn't shortchange somebody else, as long as it's not at the expense of someone else or society or something like that, that's great. And so these companies that are trying to do that, I hope you can, and I hope you reach the right people. What I don't want to see it become is like a party drug where now this thing is being used recreationally and people that really should be using organic substances are now, using these synthetic things. And anytime you take something synthetic that's not directly from, an FDA governed pharmacy, you're taking some risks. I mean, there's no way around that. And so that's why you're much better off growing it yourself. Teach a man to fish, feed himself the whole life. I think that's how it goes. So we'll see where that goes. I am teaming up with Sam Wagner of Shroom, who we spoke to recently on, I believe, the last episode. It's been a little bit. We're teaming up together with Reverence Brewing in Denver, Colorado. They are on 17th Avenue, City Park West. Teaming up with them, teaming up with Sam and Shroom with Mustache Brands, our parent company, and also Pho and Bar, which is right next to Reverence in City Park West. And we're going to do an event. It's going to be a drink, dine, and learn event where Sam and I will be teaching the audience about mushroom growing, mushroom dosing, responsible use for therapy, the understanding of entheogens just in a general sense, and building some community and understanding of this amazing gift that nature has given us. And again, if you can do things organically, you control the process. It's just a more empowering experience. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this is I want to promote my Seahorse Academy project, which is new. And the Seahorse Academy is really geared towards making better fathers. I feel through making better fathers, you create better families, and ultimately we have a better future. I think sometimes fathers are left out of the equation. They're important, but mom does a lot of the heavy lifting, whether you like to or not. I mean, physically, she has to do the entire birthing labor process. So dad is sometimes forgotten when it comes time to appreciate pivotal parts of the family. And so through psilocybin, other types of education, I feel like we can make more educated fathers, fathers that think outside the box in terms of how to better themselves and better their family, how to provide a better environment to foster a successful child. And really, at the end of the day, your family is just as important as the kid. So being mindful of the family component, your wife or your husband or whoever your significant other is, not forget about them and your connection in the joint responsibility of raising your kid or kids, because you can definitely rob one to pay the other, and it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. So we're putting together an event. It's going to be March 29th, which is a Saturday, 10 to 12, couple quick hours. We're going to have fa rolls by Fawn Bar, and we're going to have beer by Reverence Brewing, and we'll have a swag bag from Mustache Brands with lifestyle collapsible products. And you're going to learn from the best. Sam, if you've listened to the podcast, you know he's really sharp and passionate and just a great guy to impart wisdom. I'm going to do my thing. I like to think it's good. I like to think it's a value add, but hey, you be the judge. I hope that you really enjoyed this podcast. I know that they're not coming as frequently as you may want, but I'm going to do my best to keep the pace up. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to mustashebrands.com for sponsoring the podcast. Check them out at MUSTASH brands.com at Mustache Brands. Same spelling for the Mustache Room. So glad you could be here again. I don't do magic. I do science. One takes brains, the other takes dark eyeliner. Yo!